And then finally the butler, Rumsey was his name, presented the lowliest of the lowest victims, a scullery girl named Dulcie, who had been hired a mere week earlier. The Earl nodded, murmured his thanks, and Sophie was still waiting, completely unsure of what to do. So she cleared her throat and stepped forward, a nervous smile on her face. She didn't spend much time with the Earl. She was trotted out before he visited Fenwood Park.
Lucius, open the parking lot entrance.
I thought you were here already, Mr. Wayne.
Before shooing her back up to the nursery.
I'll get that checked immediately.
He'd still want to know how the studies were progressing, even now that he'd married. Surely he'd want to know that she'd mastered the science of multiplying fractions, and that Miss Timmins had recently declared her French accent
Scarecrow's a real buzzkill.
As he said something to the Countess's daughters.
We have some uninvited guests.
Sophie cleared her throat.
Oh, for shit.
My lord! In a voice that came out a bit more sweet than she intended. The Earl turned over. Sophie. Didn't realize you were in the hall. Sophie beamed.
Mama Drew will take a damage.
And who might this be? The Countess asked, stepping forward to get a better view. My ward, the Earl replied, Miss Sophia Bennet. The Countess screamed Sophie with an assessing look. Then her eyes.
Alpha target just 10 Diamondback. Armor breach.
And now, support. I see, she said.
Lost the diamond.
And everyone in the room knew instantly that she did see. Rosamond, the Countess said, turning to her two girls. Rosie, come with me. The ladies wanted to take her to the other side. So, the little smile led
Mama's been hit.
The small one smiled back, but the older one was the color of spun gold.
Armor breach on
Pointed her
Mama Drew.
nose at the door and looked firmly away. Sophie gulped, smiled again.
Rattler down.
The instant they put her shoes on her lower in position.
That's
The
a hit.
Countess turned her back on Sophie and said to the Earl, I assume you have had rooms prepared for Rosamond and Rosie. Near the nursery, right next to Sophie. There was a long silence.
Direct hit
Countess
on
must have
Rattler.
decided
Armor still
that
holding.
certain battles would
Batman's
be
taking out
conducted
Rattler.
before the silence, because all she said was, I would like to go upstairs now. And she left, taking the Earl
Confirmed
and
hit.
her daughters along with her. Sophie watched the family walk up the stairs. Then, onto the left, she turned to Mrs. Gibbons and asked, do you think she wants you could show the girls the nursery? Mrs. Gibbons shook her head.
Wayne Tower unit
They
destroyed.
looked tired. She
That
laughed.
appears to be the last
I'm
of
sure
them,
they'll be
Wayne.
needing a nap.
Upgrades ready for collection.
Sophie cried. She'd been told that Rosamond was 11, Rosie was 10. Surely that was a bit old for taking
Batmobile with
naps.
the latest in ground
Mrs.
penetrating
Gibbons
sonar,
patted her on
Mr.
the back.
Wayne. Just fire out a
Don't you
pulse,
come with me.
and the onboard computer can
Use it
generate
with
an
me.
image of what you
And
scanned
Brooke told me
below.
that she just
And
made a fresh
yes,
batch of
it's
shortbread.
sensitive enough to
I
detect
think
all
it's still
dead
warm.
plant roots, assuming
Sophie
they're there to be
nodded and
found.
followed her out of the hall. They had plenty of time that evening to get to know the two girls. She'd show them
Sonar.
the nursery, and then they'd become friends. And before long, they'd be as sisters. Sophie smiled. It would be glorious to have sisters. As it happened, Sophie did not encounter Rosamond and Rosie, or the
Lucius,
Earl and
we can't
Countess
risk
for that
another
matter,
incursion.
until
Lock
the
the
next
building
day.
down and
When
transfer
Sophie
remote
entered the
production to
nursery to
Alfred.
take her supper,
Consider it done,
she
Mr.
noticed
Wayne.
that the table
Good
had
luck
been
with
set out.
the gardening.
Miss
Master Bruce, I'm afraid
the
those
Lord
drones
Percy
were
would
just
have
the
it from
beginning.
the air,
I've
so
detected a
that the new
significant
Countess had told
redeployment
her
of
that
vehicles
Rosie
from Founders
Rosie were
Island
too
into the
tired
north
from their
and south
travels
of the
to
city.
that evening.
It seems the Arkham Knight
The
is
girls
tightening
had to
his
have their
grip.
lessons.
I'm ready for them,
And
Alfred.
so, the
Very
next
good,
day,
sir.
they arrived in the nursery, trailing the Countess by one step each.
Ivy, I
Sophie
found a
had
way to
been
track the
working
root
at her
systems
lessons
beneath
for a
Gotham.
while already.
Follow
She
the
looked
roots.
up from her
They'll
work
take
at
you where you need to go.
creative. She didn't smile at the girls this time. Somehow, it seemed best not to. Miss Timmins, the Countess said. Miss Timmins bobbed a curtsy, murmuring,
Engaging target.
The Earl tells me you will teach my daughters. You will do best, my lady.
Batman took out a drone.
Countess motioned to the old girl.
I can make her grow, Batman, but you need to wake her up.
Sophie thought, as pretty as the porcelain doll the Earl had sent up from London for her 7th birthday. This, the Countess said, is Rosamond. She is 11.
Twin
And
Rattler
thinks.
offline.
She then motioned to the other girl,
I
who
can
had
feel
not
her,
taken
Batman.
her eyes
Get
off of her
closer.
shoes. Is Posey. She is 10. Sophie looked at Posey with complete interest. Unlike her other and sister, her
Keep
hair and
searching.
eyes were
She's
quite dark.
waking from a long sleep.
Cheeks were a bit itchy. Sophie is also 10, Miss Timmins replied. The Countess's lips thinned. I would like you to show the girls around the house and garden. Miss Timmins He returned to repeating, just my girls. The Countess interrupted. Her voice somehow hot and cold at the same time. I will speak with Sophie alone. Sophie grinned and tried to bring her eyes to the Countess's, but she never made it as far as her chin. As Miss Timmins had Rosamond Posey out of the room, she stood up, awaiting further direction
They're
from her
attacking my
father's room.
plant! Protect her!
I know who you
Bring it
are,
down.
the
Yes, sir.
Countess said. The
Establish a
moment the
perimeter.
door
No one gets on
checked.
this roof.
I can make her bark harder than steel.
You're
but
his
I need
bastard,
time.
and don't
I'll
try to
protect
deny it. Sophie said nothing. It was the truth, of course. He had never said it alone.
Hold them off.
The Countess grabbed her chin and squeezed and pulled until Sophie was forced to look a little up.
Keep them away.
Listen to me, she said in a menacing voice. I live here at Kenwood Park, and you might choose
I need more
to
time.
practice, but you are nothing but a past. His name will never
Fight it, Batman.
the mistake of thinking you are as good as the rest of us. Sophie touched a little more. Countess's fingers were hot and
Protect her, Batman. Just a little longer.
The Countess continued. Feels some sort of similarity duty to you.
Not long now.
To his mistakes. But it is an insult to me to have you in my home, fed, clothed, and educated as if you were his real daughter. But she was his real daughter, and it had been her home much longer than the Countess.
It's done. She's fully mature. She should be strong enough to neutralize Scarecrow's toxin.
She hissed.
Let's hope we don't need to
Never
find
to
out.
speak to me.
Stay in the garden,
You shall
Abby.
endeavor
I'll
never
let
to
you know
be
if the
in my
situation
company.
changes.
Furthermore,
Alfred,
you
tell
are
me you
not to
found the
speak to
cloud.
Rosamond and
I wish
Posey,
I could, sir,
except
but I'm
during
encountering
lessons.
rather a lot of
They,
interference.
the
No
daughters of
doubt
the
it is
house,
deliberate attempt
and should not have
disguise
to
their
associate with the likes of
Run
you.
a full analysis of the Arkham
Do you have any
forces.
questions?
Of course, sir, but I'll need some
Sophie shook her
time.
head.
Upload the
Good.
data to the Bat computer in the
And
movie
with
studios
that,
when you're ready.
She swept
Yes, sir.
out of the
In
room,
the meantime, there are
leaving
numerous
Sophie
open
with wobbly
cases yet
legs
to be
and
investigated.
quivering lip, and an awful lot of tears. In
Okay,
time,
we're going to
Sophie
take care of this
developed her
bank.
precarious position in the house. The servants always knew everything, and it all reached Sophie's ears eventually.
What's Ivy doing working with the
Whose given name was Araminta, had insisted that very first day that Sophie be removed from the house. The Earl had refused. Araminta didn't have to love Sophie, he'd said coolly. She didn't even have to like her, but she had to protect her. He had owed up his responsibility to the girl for 7 years. He was going to stop now. Rosamond and Posey took their cues from Araminta, treating Sophie with hostility and disdain. Although Posey's heart clearly wasn't into torture and cruelty the way Rosamond's was. Rosamond liked nothing better than to pinch and twist the skin on the back of Sophie's hand when Miss Timmins wasn't looking. Sophie never said anything. She never doubted that Miss Timmins would have the courage to reprimand Rosamond. Surely that into the false tale. If anyone noticed that Sophie's hands were magically black and blue,
target disappeared.
such the occasional kindness. But she just
Twin Rattler
sighed and said,
down.
My mummy says I'm not to be this. As for the Earl, he never intervened. Sophie's life continued in this vein for 4 years, until the Earl surprised everyone by touching his hand to his chest while taking tea in the rose garden, letting out one rapid gasp and falling face first to the stone cobbles. He never regained consciousness. I was quite shocked. He was 40 years old. Who could have known that his heart would give out at such a young age? No
Just
one
like the
was
others,
more
these thugs
stunned
can't
than
do a thing
Araminta,
over the
who
alarms.
had been
I'll hit them
trying
as hard as I
desperately
can.
since her wedding night to conceive the all-important heir. I might be with child, she hastened to tell the Earl's solicitors. You can't give the title over to some distant cousin. You could very well be with child. But she wasn't with child, and when the Earl's will was read 1 month later, the solicitors had wanted to be sure to give the Countess enough time to know for sure if she was pregnant. Araminta was forced to sit next to the new Earl, a rather dissolute young man who was more often drunk than not. Most of the Earl's wishes were standard fare. He left the princess to loyal servants. He settled funds on Rosamond, Posy, and even Sophie, ensuring that all 3 girls would have respectable diaries.
Should have left us alone,
And
old
the
friend.
solicitor reached Araminta's name. To my wife, Araminta Gunningworth, Countess of Penwood, I leave a yearly income of £2,000.
We're gonna spare you,
That's all?
but
Araminta cried out. Unless she agrees to shelter and care for my ward, Miss Sophia Maria Beckett, until the latter reaches the age of 20, in which case her yearly income shall be trebled to £6,000.
just gotta keep moving.
What? Araminta whispered. You don't have to take her, the solicitor reminded her. You can live on a measly £2,000 a year, she snapped. I don't think so. The solicitor, who lived on considerably less than £2,000 a year, said nothing. The new uncle, who'd been drinking steadily throughout the meeting, just shrugged. Araminta stood. What is your decision? The solicitor asked. Take her, she said in a low voice. Shall I find the girl and tell her? Araminta shook her head. I'll tell her myself. But when Araminta found Sophie,
Play hero
she
when you
left
leave
out
guys
a
like
few
me behind.
important facts.
Come on! I'd rather go up against the bat than Harvey.
Part 1. Chapter 1. This year's most sought-after invitation must surely be that of the Bridgerton Masquerade Ball, to be held Monday next. Indeed, one cannot take 2 steps without being forced to listen to some society mama speculating on who will attend, and perhaps more importantly, who will wear what. Neither of the aforementioned topics, however, are nearly as interesting as that of the 2 unmarried Bridgerton brothers, Benedict and Colin. Before anyone points out that there is a third unmarried Bridgerton brother, let this author assure you that she is fully aware of the existence of Gregory Bridgerton. He is, however, 14 years of age, and therefore not pertinent to this particular column, which concerns, as this author's columns often do, that most sacred of sports, husband hunting. Although the Misters Bridgerton are just that, merely misters, they are still considered 2 of the prime catches of the season. It is a well-known fact that both are possessed of respectable fortunes, and it does not require perfect sight to know that they also possess, as do all 8 of the Bridgerton offspring, the Bridgerton good looks. Will some fortunate young lady use the mystery of a masquerade night to snare one of the eligible bachelors? This author isn't even going to attempt to speculate. Lady Whistledown's Society Papers, 31st of May, 1815.
Well, I fucked it up. It's okay.
Sophie!
Harvey might feel bad about this Batman.
A screech's
But we'll
wit,
bring him
it was
round.
enough to shatter glass, or at least an eardrum. Coming, Rosamond, I'm coming. Sophie hitched up the hem of her coarse woolen skirts and hurried up the stairs, slipping on the fourth step, but only just barely managing to grab the banister before landing on her bottom. She should have remembered that the stairs
Just like
were
the others, these thugs can't hear a thing over the alarms. I'll hit them as hard as I can.
Skidding to a halt in the doorway to Rosamond's bedroom, still catching her breath, Sophie said, "Yes, my tea is cold." Sophie wanted to say was, "It was Wolf. I brought it an hour ago, lazy fiend." What she did say was, "Get you another pot." Rosamond sniffed. "See what you do." Sophie spread her lips into what would merely cause Michael picked up the tea service. "Shall I leave the biscuits?" he asked. Rosamond gave her pretty head a shake. "I want once."
No, I'm not.
On the way to the overloaded tea service, Sophie exited the room.
You should have left us alone, friend.
She simply reached the hall.
Okay.
Rosamond was right back ordering tea.
We were gonna
Not
bury
bothering to drink it until an hour
but,
passed.
well,
It was
Coin had other
so she had to
ideas.
order a fresh pot, which meant Sophie
I
was
say
back
Batman!
up
Here!
and down the stairs, up
Stolen!
and
I
down.
lost him! I think he went that way!
Sometimes it seemed that was all she did with her life. Up and down. It was the mending, the pressing, the hairdressing, the shoe
Another man
polishing,
down over
the
here.
darn, the
Keep
bed
your eyes
making.
open. Still here.
Sophie!
Come near me, Batman, and I'll
Sophie
kill
took a
you!
left to see Cozy heading toward her.
We
Sophie,
don't forget what
I've
happened,
been meaning to
Batman.
ask you.
You set
Do
us
you
up
think the
all
spiders
those
are coming?
years ago.
Sophia said Cozy. The plot was quite right for Cozy. For the colour was all in the baby hat. But the colour did indeed bring out the best of her. It is a lovely shade of green, Sophie replied quite honestly.
He's just
It
a
makes your
man.
cheeks very
Kill him.
rosy. It's so good to like it.
Another man down!
There
Don't
was
let
such
him
a
stop us!
picking up
Stay away, Bat, or I'll blow the
Cozy.
crap out of you!
She reached out and plucked a sugared biscuit from the tray.
How do you
It's
do
been
it,
an
Batman?
absolute fair all
Play
week.
hero
The
when you
masquerade.
leave guys like me behind.
At the end of it, if I do not look my best. Cozy's eyes twisted into a grimace. She thinks I do not look my best. She is determined that one of us may have been pushed to Cozy.
Another man down! Don't let
To
him
make
stop
matters
us!
worse,
You come near me,
this
Batman,
woman
and
has
I'll
been
kill
writing.
you!
It's only Cozy that swallowed. The foot stuck. Was the colour very good? So haven't had a chance to read it yet. Oh, the usual stuff.
The
Cozy
coin
said with
wants
a
him
wave of
dead.
her hand.
Hey, damn it, kill him!
Quite humdrum, you know. Sophie tried to smile and failed.
Be fine!
She'd
Just
like
keep
nothing
moving!
more than to live a day of Cozy's
I
humdrum life.
warned you, Batman. We dead.
She wouldn't
Stay the
mind
hell
into
away.
it for a moment. She wouldn't mind a life of parties, rides, and music halls.
You should have let us be,
Cozy
Batman.
paused.
But
There
here
was a
you are.
review of Lady Worth's recent ball. Bit about 500. Well, seems rather small. Some girl from Scotland. And then a longish piece on the upside Bridgerton masquerade. Sophie sighed. She'd been reading about it.
Got another man down over
She
here!
was nothing but
Keep
a
your eyes
witness.
open! Still here!
Occasionally, housemaid as well.
Batman, and I'll kill you!
But Araminta decided she wasn't working hard enough. She couldn't help but wish that she could attend the ball. I, for one, will be thrilled if that Wealth Viscount gets himself engaged.
Bad idea. I need to get clear before triggering it.
If only one fewer bachelor for mother to go on and on about as a potential husband. It's a free any hope of attracting his attention anyway. She took a bite of the biscuit. Do you think Lady Whistledown is right about him? She probably is, Sophie answered. She had been reading Lady Whistledown's society papers since it had debuted in 1813, and the gossip columnist was almost always correct. Not, of course, that Sophie had ever had the chance to see the marriage night for herself. If one read Whistledown, it was the part of London society without actually attending any balls. In fact, reading Whistledown was really Sophie's one enjoyable pastime. She'd already read all of the novels in the library, and as a Rosamond nor Posey was particularly Sophie couldn't look forward to a new book entering the house.
Another man?
No one actually knew the
Don't let him
colonists'
stop us!
identity.
Stay away,
When
Brad!
the single sheet
Load of
newspaper
crap
had
out here!
debuted 2 years earlier, speculation had been rampant. Even now, whenever Lady Whistledown reported a particularly juicy bit of gossip, people started talking and guessing anew. One was able to report with such secrecy. On his side, Whistledown was entitled to his they made their union legal.
No, I'm not.
She stood, not an honest bastard. Instead of just once, she got to be the one stepping into the kitchen and attending the ball. Instead, she was the one dressing
I'm not here.
cinching Posey's corset, or dressing Rosamond's hair, or polishing a pair of Araminta's shoes. But she could not, or at least should not. She must serve as maid to Araminta and her daughters.
Ah, yes, Harvey.
Which was more than most girls in her
Tails you
position.
lose, Batman.
When her father
And these guys will make sure.
nothing to
Bring us his corpse!
his will had
Oh,
No more alarm to
Harv.
hide the sound of my attacks. I need to be quiet.
Fuck
There was no way
me.
that Araminta would forfeit 4,000.
Okay,
Giving Sophie the boot.
that is it.
But that 4,000 pounds was
We
Sophie's.
get another one of that.
Gone were the fine clothes she'd used to wear, replaced by the coarse wool of the servants. And she ate what the rest of the maids ate, whatever Araminta, Rosamond, and Posey chose to leave behind. Sophie's 20th birthday, however, had come and gone almost a year earlier. And here she was, still living in Penwood House. Still
Oh,
waiting
for the love
Araminta
of
hand
shit.
and foot. For some unknown reason, probably because she didn't want to train or pay a new maid, Araminta had allowed Sophie to remain in her household. And Sophie had stayed. If Araminta was the devil she knew, then the rest of the world was the devil
We'll
she
kill you for what you did to
Sophie
us!
had no idea which would be worse. Isn't that tray getting heavy? Sophie blinked her way out of her reverie.
I
and
know you're
focused on
there, old
Posey,
friend!
who was reaching for the last biscuit on the floor.
Uh-huh.
Rat. She'd been hoping to snitch it for herself. Yes, she murmured. Yes, it is quite. I should really be getting to the kitchen.
Come out, you damn coward!
I won't keep you any
I
longer.
can't sabotage that
Will
until
you
I
come?
upgrade the disruptor.
Could you press my pink gown? I'm going to wear it tonight. And I suppose the matching shoes should be ready to go. Got a bit of dirt.
All
on
of
the
your
last
choices led to this
And you know
moment,
how Mother is
Batman.
about shoes. Never mind that you can't even see them.
Where is Harvey?
She'll notice the tiniest speck
Fuck
of dirt the instant I lift my hand to climb a step. Sophie nodded.
It was fate,
Posey's requests to
Batman,
her daily
to
list of
die
chores.
like this.
I'll see you later then. Biting down on her last biscuit, Posey turned and disappeared
Can't
into
look
her
at me,
bedchamber.
Batman!
And
Can't look
Sophie
at my
rushed
face!
down to the kitchen.
It's not that I can't look at your face there, Harv. That's the fact that I can't find you.
Last-minute alterations on Araminta's masquerade costume. The Queen Elizabeth gown had, of course, been delivered from the dressmaker as a perfect fit, but Araminta insisted that it was now a quarter inch too large in the waist. How is that? Sophie asked, speaking through her teeth so the pins wouldn't fall.
We'll
Too
kill
tight.
you, Batman.
Sophie adjusted a few pins. What about that? Too loose. Sophie pulled out a pin and stuck it
We
back
know
in
you're here.
precisely the same spot. There. How does that feel? Araminta twisted this way and that, then finally declared, "It'll do." Sophie smiled to herself as she stood to help Araminta
We'll
out of the
kill
way.
you for what you did to us.
I'll need it done in an hour if we're to get to the ball on time, Araminta said. Of course, Sophie murmured. She found it easiest just to say, of course, on a regular basis, in conversations with Araminta. This ball is very important, Araminta said
I
sharply.
know you're there.
Rosamond must make an advantageous match this year. The new Earl, she still considered the new
Come
Earl
out, you
intimate,
damn coward.
never mind that he was the old Earl's closest living male relative. Well, he has told me that this is the last year we may use Penwood House in London. The nerve of the man. I am the Dowager Countess after all. And Rosamond and Posy are the Earl's daughters. Stepdaughters, Sophie silently corrected. We have every right to use Penwood House for the season. What he plans to do with the house, I'll never know. Perhaps he wishes to attend the season and look for a wife, Sophie suggested. He'll be wanting him, I'm sure. Araminta scowled. If Rosamond doesn't marry into money, you know what we'll do. It is so difficult to find a proper house to rent. And so expensive as well. Sophie forbore to point out that at least Araminta didn't have to pay for a lady's maid. In fact, until Sophie had turned 20, she received £4,000 per year just for having a lady's maid. Araminta snapped her fingers. Don't forget that Rosamond will need her hair powdered. Rosamond was attending dressed as Maria. Sophie had asked if she was planning to put a ring of faux blood around her neck. Rosamond had not been amused. Araminta pulled on her dressing gown, cinching the sash with swift, light movements. And Posy.
Yeet, motherfucker.
Posy will need your help in some manner or other, I'm sure. I'm always glad to help, Posy, Sophie replied. Araminta narrowed her eyes as she tried to figure out if Sophie was being insolent. Just see that you do, she finally said, her syllables kept. She stalked on. Sophie saluted as the door closed behind her. Ah, there you are, Sophie, Rosamond said as she bustled into the room. I need your help immediately. I'm afraid it'll have to wait until I said immediately, Rosamond snapped. Sophie squared her shoulders and gave Rosamond a steely look. Your mother wants me to water her gown. Just pull the pins out and tell her you pulled it in. She'll never notice the difference. Sophie had been considering the very same thing, and she groaned. If she did as Rosamond asked,
I don't know. It may have been the bat, but he's gone.
I
need cover here. Keep a lookout. Come on,
She
wake
would
up.
definitely have to do the alteration.
Hey,
What do you
what happened? I'll get you down from
There
there.
was a tear at the hem of my costume. I have no idea how it happened. Perhaps when you tried it on, it'd be impossible. Sophie clamped her mouth shut. It was far more difficult to take orders from Rosamond than from Araminta. Probably because they'd once been equals, sharing the same schoolroom and governess. It must be repaired immediately, Rosamond said with a repeated sniff. Sophie smiled.
I'll shoot him down and see what happens.
I'll do it right after I finish with your manners. I promise you'll have it in plenty of time. I won't be late for this ball, Rosamond warned. If I am, I shall have your head on a platter.
Oh, they're all glitched over here.
Sick of waiting here.
Mother,
You come find me when you're ready.
hurried out the door to retrieve her costume. Oh! Sophie looked up to see Rosamond crashing into Posy, who was barreling through the door. Watch where you're going, Posy, Rosamond snapped. You could watch where you're going too, Posy pointed out. I was watching. It's impossible to get out of your way, you big oaf. Posy's cheeks stained red. Stepped aside.
And there's that one.
Rosamond had disappeared. Posy.
God, I've
Oh yeah, I'm
to you.
I'm clipping this.
Look a little like seaweed. Sophie let out a long breath. The dark green ribbons weren't likely to show up very well against Rosie's dark hair, but she didn't have the heart to point that out.